One of those big pre-working with red flags, it's the whole budget thing. I know there are different trains of thought as to whether you should get pricing out of the way early on or wait until you have the conversation. In some cases, both make sense, but I think for a lot of us, you're better off getting the money out of the way up front, even if you're not committing to a price. But if you give them, my general range for this type of project starts at whatever that rate is. If they're nowhere in the ballpark, then it's a nice clean cut. You're not putting a lot of extra time into crafting this really nice proposal when they're going to say, oh, well, I can get somebody on Fiverr to do it for half that. And if they say they can get somebody on Fiverr to do half that, let them. That's not the client that you want.
Exactly. You want to talk about money on the first call. Because I know when I was starting out, I made that mistake because money was just such a touchy subject. I was afraid to address it. That's when the most conflict would happen. And it's like, oh, I'm excited about this project. I really want to get this job. But how do I bring up money? How do I even find out if we're in the same ballpark? And so when I first started out, I would just be like, okay, let me hear what you want. And then I will work up a quote for you. Because in my mind, okay, that's easier. They can say yes or no. So I would do that, except, I had this big, gorgeous proposal that I would put together that was multi-pages, and I'd put all this effort into it. I'd probably spend like an hour or two on these proposals and send it off, and that's way out of my budget. Or they would ghost me. More often than not, we just wouldn't hear from them again. And I was getting exhausted. I was like, man, I'm putting all this time and effort into things. And it really, when you're putting in that much effort into getting work and then they ghost you, I mean, it just sucks. It's a really frustrating feeling. And so I was actually watching some of Chris Doe's videos in the future. And one of the biggest piece of advice he's given is talk about money right away. And say it confidently. So, if something is $5,000, then you just state, great, that's going to be, I estimate that to be between $5,000 and $7,000. And you say it just like that. You don't say it, $5,000, which a lot of people do.
You don't want it to be a question.
No. I think that's hard for a lot of people, especially when you're just starting out, to just confidently state, this is the estimate range that I'm expecting this to be. Does that work for you? And then you go quiet. You don't say anything else.
Don't follow it up with an apology. You don't have to say, "Oh, I'm sorry, but this is what it costs." Like, no, you're not sorry. It's kind of it's something that it's fortunate for us that we have a little the ability to take the emotion out of it, and that's harder for some people. But it's really important to do, I think, when it comes to the money talks, because it can be uncomfortable for everybody, and you don't want to throw out a high number and then have them completely go away. But at the same time, if they are condescending in their remarks about your starting estimate range, that's not your problem. They'll probably try to talk down at you and like, well, that's ridiculous. I don't understand. Why would it cost that much? And you can easily, again, unemotionally justify, okay, well, I've been doing this for X amount of time, and here are the services you'll get from me and the quality, and and if that's not within your budget, I completely understand. I hope, things work out well for you. Unfortunately, I'm not able to go lower for this scope of work, and just kind of be okay. It's one of those red flags, because if they're going to nickel and dime the price before you even get started, and I think we've mentioned this before, there's some weird thing that happens across the board. The people who are most finicky about the budgets tend to be the worst people to work with. They will ask for the world. They'll be the micromanagers. They'll want revision upon revision upon revision and try to do the scope creep. And they just are the ones that you're going to end up complaining about the most. Whereas the ones who pay full rate tend to be much easier and better to work with. So, you don't have to feel bad about quote, losing a client that's not willing to value your services. Because if they won't before they even work with you, chances are they never will.
And I wanted to touch on what Tara was saying. I don't want this to totally turn into a pricing call, but what we're kind of talking about, the other reason why getting the price out of the way first is this idea called price bracketing. And essentially, the person that puts the price out there first sets that anchor. And that's the anchor against which the other side is fighting against. So if someone, let's say your price is $1,000 a month, and they say, well, my budget's $500. Now you have an uphill battle trying to get them up to something you'll deem acceptable. If you come out first and say, okay, the price for this is between $1,000 and $2,000, now they have to kind of work to get you down. So you can do that by reducing the scope, saying, okay, if that's too much, what is your budget? Let's see what we can do scope-wise to meet you there. And when we do proposals, we try to do 2 or 3 different price options. That also helps give them choices so that even if your high price is too much, we can find a middle ground.
Always good advice. And the other thing I would say is, and this comes up a lot when you get to pricing, is don't let the prospect back you into a corner. Again, this is a mistake I made a few times before I realized this isn't working for me. And what I mean by that is it kind of falls into that, I forget which client was in that carousel, where the one where they're trying to get you, they're questioning your value. And they're trying to get you to like sort of fight for the job. Like, how low can you go, kind of thing.
The penny pincher.
I think
love your work and everything you do, but can you do it for less?
That's a lot more polite than some of the prospects I've dealt with. Would you remember we dealt with one prospect? It was for a podcast branding project. And we told them the pricing, and the first thing they said was, well, I've talked to a bunch of other people who are much lower priced than that. You know, what is it? I'm not really hearing what you do that offers any value. How are you going to offer me value for that? And a lot of prospects will do that. They will ask you questions along those lines. They'll say things like, I'm talking to 50 other people, and most of them are charging lower prices, and they do this, and they're willing to do all of this for this low price. So what do I get out of working with you? Why am I paying more? What's so great about you, essentially, is what they're asking. And it's really easy for people to fall into the trap of selling themselves. It's really easy for people to start going, oh, wow, I've got to prove my value to them. I have to start telling them, well, we have excellent support, and we do high quality work, and we're award-winning podcast producers, and we do X, Y, and Z, and we're so great, and please come work with us because we will treat you like a king or a queen. And the problem with that is you're giving the prospect all of the power in that situation. You're devaluing yourself in the sense of you're basically sending the message that, you know, hey, I really want this job. I might be willing to lower my price because I'm really selling myself hard. And it does send that message. And so actually the better thing to do is to start questioning them. So instead of responding with, I'm so great, here's all the things that I do, you can respond to that question with, well, it sounds like you have a lot of options that are in a lower price range, and that's awesome. Is there a reason you're not going with them? You know, put them on the spot. Have them explain.
I think people forget that you are interviewing potential clients as much as they're interviewing you. Mm-hmm. So you don't, it's not like a job interview where you're looking at them to, oh, please hire me. Although a regular job interview, you should be doing the same. You want to know if it's worthwhile for you to start this relationship. And it's not all about what you can do for them. It needs to also be about what they can do to you or do for you. There should be some mutual respect in that regard. And if you're already kind of getting, it almost sounds like gaslighting that you're getting before you've even signed on with a client, there's no reason, again, to expect that they'll be differently once you start working together. It sounds to me, if that initial conversation that was already happening, I would probably think, okay, well, now then if we start working together, they are constantly going to be trying to make me feel inferior and make me justify my whole existence. And I don't want to deal with that. I want to be with the clients who see what I offer and who value it and don't have to try to say, oh, well, I can get somebody else to do the exact same thing. And, if you can, okay, go ahead. See what the difference is. Hire the less qualified or less expensive or whatever their rationalization is. But it's something that I would rather avoid.